Welcome back to another episode of Dungeon Hammer, brought to you by One Mind Syndicate. I am your host, Gershwin, and I'm here with my two co-hosts,
Docile Creature.
And the Sound Alchemist.
and today we're going to be talking about romance in Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, wait, no, hold on. I'm sorry. That was last week's podcast, so check it out if you haven't. That's not a plug. That's just me making a mistake. Today we're talking about creating NPCs. Now, what is an NPC, guys?
It's a non-player character.
Say it again.
It's a non-player character.
Okay.
Someone that the DM has created for all of the players' enjoyment.
Sometimes. It's usually just to push a narrative hook,
Or to sell you some garbage.
Garbage.
which is what we should get into. What is the main goal of an NPC? What do you guys think?
Wow, that's a
That is
a loaded
very,
question.
Yeah. Because NPCs could be a lot of things. They could be your best friend, your worst enemy. When you think about it, that's what the villain of the whole campaign is. An
Just
NPC.
the dude down the street, the
Yeah.
butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker,
Stuart Little.
Stuart Little, NPC.
Literally, it's everything. A tree could be an NPC.
If it comes alive.
Right. So you're saying in order to be an NPC, you have to have sentience?
Because it's a non-player character.
So how do you make the difference between sitting down and actually putting in time and investing time in creating an NPC as opposed to any other what seems to be like setting? What is the big like?
It depends on how important
Right.
the NPC is to the story.
Okay.
And also how often are the players going to interact with this NPC.
Gotcha.
Because if they're not important to the story, but they're the worker at the party's favorite spa, and they're going to keep going back there over and over and over again, then this is an NPC or NPCs that you should probably flesh out, because they're going to be reoccurring characters.
So if it's a reoccurring character or a character that has an important hook to the narrative story, you should invest time into creating beforehand, right? You want to give, you want to flesh out this guy's backstory before you throw him out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you should take the time beforehand. The ones that are going to impact the story and be important in some way.
And how do you do that? How have you guys done that in the past? Let's say you have a character that's going to push, or it's going to give the party a specific goal or maybe a clue. How much and how do you build the character up?
I think it's based a lot on the environment, where you are, what the time period is. Because you can't just have like an ASMR where you're in hell or something like that. Or maybe you do, which is going to give more curiosity and more intrigue into that specific character. So it really depends on the environment, I think.
Yeah.
So it is good to develop a setting. Once you have the setting, then you can start building the NPCs, you would say?
Where is this NPC going to go?
Right.
Do the
Oh,
reverse
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
Like my NPC has to give the party a magic weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, where will his location be in accordance to where the party's going to be or where they're going to go? Narratively driven. I think that's the main aspect for him.
So the main building point is the hook then.
Yes. At least I believe so.
What is their role going to be, kind of?
And then after that, how what else do you guys do?
I think you just got to try to make them as three-dimensional as possible.
Right. Almost make them as fleshed out and important as the PCs themselves.
It's pretty much the opposite of what you think of when you think of a video game NPC, because they're kind of like cardboard cutouts that sit there and they talk to you and they have the same dialogue over and over again.
Yeah.
But this should be almost like, if you're planning out an important NPC, treat it as if you were creating a character. What are their goals? You can even use the like personality traits and stuff in the player's handbook to kind of flesh it out even further. You can give them, if they're combatively important, that's not a word, but give them class levels, like legitimately make them a character.
Yeah.
Like give
Pick
them
out their spells and all that.
Yeah. And that's all pretty mechanical stuff. You can also do stuff to make them stand out, like make them memorable to players, because if John is the most important NPC in the campaign, but he's just like a normal looking dude whose name is John, they're gonna be like, oh, what was that dude's name? Like, I don't even remember who that is. So if you make him stand out in a bunch of different ways.
Could be appearance, could be like through feats.
And give them scars, you missing
Yeah.
limbs, give them a funky accent, make them have weird hairdos, give them weird personality quirks like a stutter or what's that?
Accent?
No, where you swear randomly.
Oh,
Tourette's?
Tourette's.
Yes,
and
yeah.
tics.
Just some weird things that are gonna be like, oh, that's that guy that he had the scar going from his head to his toes or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just make him memorable
Right.
in appearance.
That's
And-
why I was saying like environment plays a role too. Because if like you are somebody who's like scarred from head to toe, what if you're like on a battlefield like medic area? Everybody's like that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not the norm, but you're gonna remember that. Hey, everybody here's all effed up, but look at John over there, and he seems perfectly healthy and fine.
Or even like you said, like if there's an Asimar in hell. Or as simple as, oh, this is a halfling town, and there's this
Goliath.
shopkeeper that's a Goliath.
Yeah.
That's going to stand out immediately because he's huge and he sticks out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be like, I want to talk to that Goliath because the rest of the halflings kind of just like blur into the background noise.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the reason you want to make this character important is obviously because he's going to be tied into the narrative aspect of the story, but also because as a DM, you never really know what the party's going to do. Tying back to the whole idea of like giving him stats, you never know if the party is going to attack a character that you never imagine the party to attack.
Right.
As a DM, you have to be prepared to just bust out that character stat and just be like, okay, well, if you guys want to fight the
baby in the stroller, then
Yeah.
He's a level 20 barbarian.
The funny part is that the very first campaign I ever DM'd, I did sit down and I created a scenario where the party was going to talk to children that were going to pickpocket.
Yep.
And I actually
Little
did give
bastards.
them
Stats and
stats
everything.
because part of me wanted you guys to hit them. You did not, but yeah, that's why you have to be prepared though, and that's why you want to invest development into NPCs. Now, how do you guys know to stop developing an NPC?
that's the thing, though. It's like you never know how pivotal they're gonna be. Like for example, in the campaign that we're all in, you have Madresh, the shopkeep.
Yeah.
At first, we just thought he was like a mysterious shopkeep owner, Dragonborn owner. Eventually, as the campaign progressed, we're like, oh, maybe he's not who he seems to be. And then we got the hint that he's not just a Dragonborn. He's got to be a full-fledged dragon. So maybe the DM only had the stats for the shopkeep magic owner. But since we kept pushing this narrative, maybe that's when he had to change up that stats and think, oh, so what if he actually is this dragon? Now I got to give him stats, raise his level, and do all this.
And that actually goes to the other type of NPC, in my opinion, is not the one that's integral to the story. Because Madresh was just a magic shop NPC, like a merchant.
Right.
I don't think he was meant, when we first were introduced to him, I don't think he was meant to further the story in any way. He was just meant to sell his magic items.
Which in a way does further the story.
But not like plot-wise.
Right.
And what I think you should do with those kind of NPCs is, like I said, if you know they're going to keep coming back, then you flesh them out as you go, kind of. So I don't remember if we suspected he was a dragon first or we got a hint first, but like you said, maybe if we hinted at it first and then the DM's like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe he is a dragon. And then you flesh him out a little more.
Which just means that, like, don't force yourself to stay stagnant with a certain NPC.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With any NPCs or anything, because they should always be evolving anyways with like what happens in the world.
Exactly.
Make all your NPCs anywhere react to current events. Like if there's a war broken out in the east, then the people in the west are going to be like, oh man, could it be coming this way? They're boarding up their houses, they're digging trenches and stuff, trying to prepare for a war or something like that.
So when you're developing a key NPC, I think what we've decided then, or what we've seemed to come into a consensus with, is making them memorable, giving them a reason to interact with the party, What other like key or important things do you need to develop in an NPC?
I guess just make sure that the important NPCs have goals that are not necessarily exactly what the players want. Like they have goals that either somewhat align or completely contradict with what the players' goals are.
And why would that be important?
I think it makes an NPC more realistic if, let's say, you're going up to a merchant, a traveling merchant, and their goal in life is to set up shop in this big city. And that's going to that gives you a lot to work with an NPC. Like if that's their goal in life, as they interact with the players, they might do certain things or ask certain questions or ask favors or something like that to further that goal.
Kind of like a side quest.
Yeah, and it might also help you in your quest depending on what it is, or it could just completely be out of the way or something. Maybe you work for a merchant guild or whatever, and they don't want halflings or something like that. So it's completely against what
you're doing.
Your goals are.
Now, let's say you develop an NPC, you give them extreme details, and the party never interacts with them. What do you guys do in those situations?
That's where flexibility in story building and narrative comes into play. Because if you did really want to use this character, you could always include them in another way.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not just a shopkeep. Maybe he's like a traveling caravan. So it's like you could still have that aspect where you could go to him to buy wares and magical items and stuff like that. But it's traveling, so he could always pop up randomly.
And usually when I flesh out NPCs, I don't give them a specific place in the world to be. So I can just pick them up and place them wherever they're at, if it makes sense, or if you really need to have that NPC show up and do something cool, then just put them wherever, put them in the path of the players. It's not it's not as egregious as kind of like picking up dungeon or like picking up story plot and putting it in front of the players.
Yeah,
It's just an NPC.
Yeah. The thing about NPCs though that I don't really like is I feel like you can go overboard with them or underboard. Like let's say you create a town and there's only like 2 people you can talk to. Like you kind of lose realism there.
Yeah.
I think in situations like that, like make people all over the town, and if you didn't plan them for somebody or some NPC that they interact with, this is where random tables are your best friend. Name tables, personality quirk tables, they're out there. People have made them. They're really useful. It's just I'm gonna go to the blacksmith, and you're like, I didn't plan on this. Let's roll a few dice or just pick from the chart. Like what is this guy and why? And sometimes those NPCs can be the ones that they latch onto. So after you randomly generate it, you're kind of like, okay, this is the NPC that the base foundation. Now I can kind of flesh it out depending on where the characters are at in that moment, both emotionally and where they are on the quest chain or whatever.
Yeah, because that does bring up a good point. So if you are, if the party is visiting a certain location and they specifically want, if you as a DM specifically want them to get certain information, maybe creating that table that you mentioned is based off of the narrative ideas that you have. So normally you would create those characteristics in one character, but if the party doesn't interact fully with that one character, then you sprinkle it throughout the entire party, or throughout the entire NPCs that the party interacts with. So when we do talk about tables, it is awesome to go on Pinterest and pull up those tables, but it is really fun to create your very own tables based on your own narrative goals. So that is like something to consider when you're creating your NPCs. Create a chart that gives the party the key points that they might not ask of just one person. Because we've been in situations where sometimes when you interact with a certain NPC, if he showcases like a standoffish like thing about him, the party might stop talking to him. But that doesn't mean that you as a DM should just completely ignore the rest of the the information that he had, just carry it over, push it over to the next NPC. So yeah, that is a.
Yeah, this is all interesting, but how do you feel about having a NPC join the party?
I think it's something that's very likely to happen, depending on the party makeup, and I don't think it should happen for the whole game, because that's basically the DM playing a character,
Yeah.
and that's kind of not cool. But sometimes if you have a party makeup that isn't good at a certain thing, maybe you hire a mercenary to do something for you. If you don't have any rogues in the party and you gotta pick lock or sneak into some place, and you hire a rogue or hire somebody that can do that kind of stuff for you.
Now, does that take away from the party, like, thinking outside the box and saying, oh, well, we can't pick this,
Well, I think that should be the party's decision. Like, you shouldn't say, oh, a rogue walks up to you and say, oh, want me to pick some locks for you? Like, make them seek out the rogues, seek out their mercenaries if they really need something like that, or a wizard or something like that.
Yeah.
But it is a good example of how an NPC can be your gateway out of a problem that you gave the party that they can't solve. If they really can't solve how to get out of the dungeon, creating an NPC that has been in the dungeon for an X amount of years is a really good way to have that quick way out for the party. And it's up to you I think you need to like feel the vibe of your party. If they're fed up with whatever trick you threw at them, then throw in that NPC, because they're gonna like that. They're gonna know what you did, because obviously every single player on the table is smart enough to pick that up.
But if everybody's fed up, they're gonna be like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah,
like just get me out of here.
Right.
If they got a super hard puzzle that they couldn't figure out, it's like,
it's
you
like
just boop 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 boop.
Get
Okay,
out of
doors
jail
open.
free card.
Yeah.
But have that NPC ready then, to give the party that way out.
Right. And also, it's best to keep a log of all these NPCs, because if you have a lot of characters, it may get a little confusing as to who they spoke to and what their backstory was.
Especially when you start using accents and stuff like that. If they go back to another NPC that you don't remember what they sounded like and they do, it's going to be a little weird.
Yeah.
So if I started doing this toward when I was DMing, is make little note cards or a little piece of paper that just write the bullet notes, like this NPC, he's friendly towards the party, Irish accent, and certain other things. All the important points that you need to remember to say. Look over these few points and okay, that's the NPC I remember now, and you can just plug and play.
Yeah, that is one thing that I completely regret not doing when running my sessions. Is I would throw an NPC at you guys, not write anything down, even the name. I would rely on you guys to write that down to tell me. As a DM, that is not a good way to do it. Something that I thought about later on was like actually building an NPC based on a real life person. So like if there is a person that is very important in your life, building an NPC around the person gives you a quick way to respond to certain things based on the person. So if you create like a Bridget B in your session, then obviously you should know her ins and outs, and you should know how she would respond, what position she would take, and what she would do to turn you on,
Exactly.
And once you know that, then it's a lot easier. And it doesn't just have to be real life, amazing, beautiful people. It could also be like characters in other universes.
Steve Buscemi's,
Gary Busey's.
Exactly.
Danny DeVito's.
That's the one.
Gilbert Gottfried's.
Yeah,
I want a party of that.
But creating people like in other universes and filling it within your universes, it might seem like a cheat, but we have to remember that everybody steals off everybody else.
Yeah, and if you're afraid that your players are gonna just catch on right away, just change a few things. Make a super tall, buff Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Or make a thinner Bridget B. Who would want that? Never mind.
Or
See, okay, so that leads me to my question. What if you're creating an NPC that's related to like the character? So let's say, for example,
sister or brother.
a sister, brother, father figure. Like, what if you create a character and that player doesn't like the attributes, the relationship, all that you created?
That's a tough one. Yeah.
That's their own fault because they should come up with these characters. If they put the creation in the hands of the DM, you should realize that you might you just have to roll with whatever they come up with. Otherwise, come up with it yourself. Quit being lazy.
So
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, because I feel like that should be the DM's job, like
No. To come up with your
to come up with the
NPCs?
story and the players inhabiting that world.
The story, yes. But if you come to the table and say, "Oh, I'm married to this person. My parents are these people," and then you can say, "Okay, DM, you fill out their personality traits."
Mm-hmm.
But then if the player doesn't like them, then that's on the player.
Yeah, I guess.
Because if you really care about the characteristics of your wife or your dad or your mom, then you should write what these characteristics are.
How much, as a DM, how much should you listen to your player as far as
Never.
creating NPCs though? Because because if you have a specific goal for your character that you're playing, and then you give that idea to your DM, and your DM completely changes that.
Mm-hmm.
As a DM, are you just being an asshole because you're not following what you want or what the player wants, or are you just
So
creating
go
an
into more
NPC based off
detail
you?
because I'm having trouble visualizing what you're saying.
So, like, let's say you have a very specific view of your father.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say he was I don't know, we'll make him a king, right? Like, you
Gotcha.
want him to be a king. You want your character to be connected to royalty. And then you as a DM say, yeah, that doesn't really fit into my world. I'm going to make him something else. Should you try to work with the actual player to work something out? So if you do want to be royalty, maybe we can work on that a different way. Or should you just create the NPC based on what your character wants or your player wants, and then throw him bits and pieces? Because in my situation, I really like the idea of a person coming up with an idea. Hey, it would be really cool to create like this type of character, but I need this type of NPC. I think it's more fun to say, okay, cool, let's create the NPC that you have in mind, and let me work on character hooks or character problems that might come because of that you will never think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should compromise with your DM.
Mm-hmm.
If you come up with a NPC idea, be prepared for it to change
Mm-hmm.
because it's the DM's world,
Mm-hmm.
and if it doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. But the DM should kind of work with your player to make it as close to what they want as possible without breaking the rules of your universe or whatever it is that doesn't work.
How do you deal with the player who wants too much
Control. I
yeah,
guess?
too much control in the NPCs that they create?
Have a conversation. Sounds like a outside of the game conversation. Say like, listen, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm the DM. Bow before me. Listen to what I say. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, just have a conversation with them.
Oh, you were kidding?
Yeah.
Damn.
Let them know that sometimes you got to kill your darlings, and don't hold fast to your idea 100%.
Yeah.
Be a little more fluid with your ideas, because if a player wants their NPCs to be 100% the way that they want with no compromise, then just have them DM, and then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, it is also a good idea to listen to the player and maybe even negotiate a certain type of outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like if you really want this character to be like the king, then maybe we won't make him a king this time, but later on we'll make your character form like his own royalty line, or something. In a way where the character's goal fits within your narrative story or within your world.
Make it possible.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a
Yeah.
guarantee.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, but
Yeah.
it seems. I don't like the idea of like, oh, somewhere down the line, you're going to become a king before the game even starts.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of that.
No.
Personally.
Right. Yeah. But what? Yeah. Like you said. Like
But
what
it's
I meant.
possible.
It's like it's a possibility
Yeah.
of like, okay, so this doesn't fit right now, but later on,
That can be a character goal.
if you
Right.
blow me, then for
Yes.
sure.
That's got to be it.
Exactly. Make political moves in the campaign
Yeah.
so that it's possible for you to potentially become king.
You
Oops,
benefit in
I
real
dropped
life.
my dice.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Now, how do you feel about giving the character what they want, but twisting it in a different way? So, like, let's say that NPC will eventually become a king,
Mm-hmm.
but the way they become a king is through, like, the villain putting them in an illusion that they're stuck in their own mind and they think they're a king.
Like monkey's paw type
Mhm.
stuff.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I think as a player, if my DM would come to me and be like, "Oh,
What
I
if they
really,
didn't tell you?
I really,
What if they didn't tell you?
I would love it because it's a situation of like, okay, cool. Like I really like that idea. I'm gonna give you exactly what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Little did you know, there's consequences with
Would
that.
you love it though?
I would. Docile creature. Don't fucking don't start.
All right, all right.
End it.
Sounds like some barnacles to me, but
Barnacles.
I mean, as long as it's like cool, because if it is,
As long as cool is a very
the point of the monkey's paw is to like just be completely like balls out and be cool. And I think as a DM, that's what you're
Be
trying to
cool.
do. Like that's
Yeah.
what you're trying to do. So if my DM was like, I like that idea, I'm gonna give it to you, but then I'm gonna take it away. Then in that situation, it's kind of like, well, okay, then
or there's a huge downside or something like that.
yeah.
That does sound cool.
But because like I had a situation like that with the DM with a DM, and it was a situation where it's like I was really asking to be a werebear. Like I wanted to be a were something, and he finally gave it to me, and I felt like okay, so he's giving it to me. I know there's going to be something bad that
There's a
comes
catch
next,
to it.
Yeah.
and I was completely fine with whatever that catch was going to be.
Yep.
Obviously, I fucking died.
But that wasn't the DM. That was the.
That
That was
sure
something
wasn't the
different.
DM.
That was
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
a
but
certain alchemist.
that's a situation where the DM does not. I didn't feel like the DM did something because I was.
Were you happy
Bitching
though,
about?
about getting it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was super happy. I was like,
Okay.
okay, this is gonna be really fun, and then all of a sudden, I mean, obviously I died, but I was ready. I was prepared to be like, okay, I know there has to be. There's a monkey's paw trick to it.
Because the
And I'm
downside
cool with
can
it.
be really fun to roleplay.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
always loved when my character gets cursed weapons or
Yeah.
vampire or werewolf or something
Right.
like that because the downsides are going to be so fun to just deal with that
Yeah.
it's just adds a whole nother element to the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you should tie into the NPC's goals as well. So like if you do have a certain goal and the party follows that goal, there's gonna be some type of effect because of what the party did. So like if you're creating a certain character that's gonna give the party a relic or it's gonna give them the next push for the story arc, they need to understand. You need to lay down the idea or the concept that based on what your actions are, the story arc might go on a tangent.
Yeah, it kind
If that makes
of
sense.
reiterate the fact that
They're not stagnant. They're
yeah,
ever
when you
changing.
leave their shop, they don't just turn off and nothing. They don't do anything until you come back in. They're also trying to fulfill their goals through the whole time that you're doing your stuff.
Right.
So maybe the next time you see that halfling merchant, he does have a shop in the city, and it's like, oh yeah, you finally did it. You've achieved your goal. Now he has another goal to murder his rivals next door and stuff like that.
The heck?
You know, that's a. I want to do that.
How much progression do you put towards the NPC? So let's say you did create an NPC for a certain town. The party leaves the town, comes back a year later. How much development do you create?
Well, I think it'd be nice to have them be different than where you first
They
saw
have a
them.
kid now.
It depends on how much they like or dislike the NPC. I feel like the stronger that is, the more I want to develop them. Like if they hate this NPC, next time they come back, he's the mayor. Boom, deal with it, and that changes the town completely.
Yeah.
And that changes the whole dynamic of their relationship with this guy that they just talk shit to or just completely dismissed or whatever. Now he's the mayor, and you need to be in this town for whatever reason. Deal with it, or the opposite. You really love this character. Next time he's the mayor. You got the hookups with the mayor, so it opens doors or
You got the
stuff
key
like
to
that.
the city.
not even if that even if that NPC wasn't necessarily huge to the story, it opens up more resources. If it, let's say that they were nice to this guy, now he's the mayor. Now, depending on what goals they're trying to accomplish, they have more resources to pull upon. Oh yeah, we got that halfling friend. He's the mayor of the town now. Maybe he can help us out, trying to ask the guards around or whatever, looking for clues. Get us into the abandoned warehouse to try to look around.
Gotcha. Now, let's say you develop a character or an NPC really, really well, an NPC that the party really loves and has bonded to. How do you dispose of that NPC if the story arc ever goes
Brutally, mercilessly.
Well, because Docile Creature has complained about a certain NPC's death for eons.
Yep.
Which one?
When one of my adopted kids got vaporized by the dragon in a cutscene. If you're listening, DM, in a cutscene, for real. But yeah, that's something that I don't know how serious I am when I talk crap about that instance, because part of me is like, yeah, that does kind of suck. I had no chance to save this NPC. It wasn't a huge NPC, like, admittedly, but
There was a bond there.
Building him, or I wanted to build him to be a substantial NPC, and it's just, it feels kind of George R. R. Martin-y, like, oh, because I didn't even know this NPC was going to be there, and then, oh, he came to the keep. Great, I'm going to see him again. Vaporized, dead. Nothing I could do about it. It feels, I don't know, like, in some way I like it because it's like, oh shit, like, there was nothing I could have done, and this dude just got murked. But part of me wishes I could have done something about it.
I think as a DM, you're missing the opportunity to give the individual player or even the party the opportunity to make an impact in your world. If you just do get rid of the person in a cutscene or in a narrative way. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, obviously, like in that situation. That was a pretty well executed scenario because it made you feel bad. Yeah. I like that. But in I think as a DM, if you do have the opportunity to get rid of a character that's really important to the party, giving the party the opportunity to save that person, even if you make it like a 99% chance that they're gonna fail, giving them that 1% chance is an opportunity that you need to take.
One natural 20 will do it. That kind of thing. 5% chance.
Yeah, that's fun. It makes the party like, oh shit, like, oh, we really need to get this. Yeah,
you get one roll, and it puts so much tension on that roll, and ideally you would want to do that to an NPC that the whole party likes, because then everybody's invested.
Yeah.
But if you do want to like make that one person feel like crap, then
do it in a cutscene.
Because there, like you said, there's no way, even if you did roll a natural 20 3 times in a row, like, you can't do anything.
There wasn't even an opportunity for me to roll anything.
Right.
Because I didn't even see it, technically.
Yeah.
I think I rolled to be able to see it, and I failed. And then somebody else saw it and told me.
You guys talking about this, it did make me think of, like, it would be cool to have an NPC, or using your NPC to bring in characters into a certain story arc. So, for example, in your situation, it was obviously you and that individual NPC. It would be nice to use that NPC as a way for the party to interact with you. So, like, that NPC's life depends not on you, but it depends on the rest of the party or an individual member of the party.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have that person that normally is just on his phone watching a football game. You bring him in and you're like, hey, it's your decision. This person in the table really cares about this NPC. What are you going to do?
What would your character do?
Yeah.
Usually they'd probably just say, huh?
Yep.
And we'd have to like explain what happened like the past 10 minutes.
Yeah. But it's okay. He's not going to be here next week. He's going to be married.
Oh, that's why they're not there?
Oh, is that too personal? Okay.
Moral decisions involving NPCs that you care about are just like gold. I love that stuff. On both sides, being a DM and being a player living through it.
Yep. Yeah. It's always really awesome to see the NPC directly impact the party. Because usually, like when I make NPCs, it's to drive the narrative one way or another. But when the party takes more of a like a stance or a side and really integrates with that NPC, it really adds more to the story because it's like, oh, they really like this character. Now I can use him for something else instead of the original thought of just having him to say, oh, the dragon went to the left. Go to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's be flexible.
In like caring about NPCs can give there's so much RP potential, like not only in like just talking, but like for example, when I was DMing, they had this NPC that they really liked and got his arm bit off by a dinosaur. And one of the characters is always poor, came into all this money, and he spent all of it to try to get this guy a badass metal arm. And it like it was an NPC. He wasn't important to the story. He was just someone that they found. They were the same race, so they had that link. But everybody in the party liked him. They all chipped in money, but he was like, "I'm gonna give basically all my money to try to get this guy a super cool arm." And it had nothing to do with the story. He was not an important character. It was just like an NPC that they latched onto, that they were willing to put thousands of gold into trying to fix this dude's arm. Yeah. They could have just not had an arm.
Yeah,
that was really awesome because that reminds me of like something that just happened in the spur of the moment. I actually created a creature that was gonna like just fight the party. Just a regular phase spider.
Not very docile.
No, very not docile. So I created a phase spider to attack the party. Somehow they managed to befriend this spider, which should have killed him, and they used him to travel into the ethereal plane and essentially used him as like a quick travel device.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would have never guessed this. Like, they're just gonna fight him. Oh, a spider, kill it, and that's it. No,
I guess that kind of opens up a whole other point. What about NPCs that are beasts or like animals, or
because there was some sentience to it, but he couldn't communicate until they used
speak with animals.
Yeah, speak with animals, or the druid changed into a spider. Yeah. So,
but I think it's an example of how, as a DM, you have to be flexible and really like have that training or that skill to see like, okay, if the party is attached to this NPC that I had no idea would even be significant, then you need to like work with it, because you could have just said, no, he's just a spider, leave it alone. But no, you developed this whole idea of like him traversing through the dimensional, whatever you said.
Yeah, the ethereal plane.
Yeah. But yeah, it's important to create NPCs with the understanding that even though it's your world, it's your NPC, the party ends up doing things.
You're never gonna know what kind of NPC your party's gonna attach to.
Right.
Could be the homeless dude that is supposed to just be a random homeless dude.
Yeah, maybe they befriend the big bad villain.
Maybe, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That's crazy because, like I said, like just this random spider eventually became like the envoy between the Spider Queen and like the party, and it's like, who would have thought?
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, that's just good DMing skills.
Definitely.
Right there.
I should have just killed it.
If you guys have had any type of memorable NPC in any campaign that you've run in the past, let us know in the comment section below. How do you guys use NPCs if you're a DM? And can't wait to talk to you guys in the comment section. If you guys have any other ideas of other topics for us to talk about in these podcasts, let us know. And thanks for listening, guys. This was Gershwan.
That's our creature.
And the Sound Alchemist.
We got it right this time.
Yay! And we'll see you in the next one.
Oh, what if you could put my freedom first in any situation?